This is my latest version of the jetting calculator, version 11, and it varies from the previous versions because the previous versions were using the idle jetting as the jump off point for the curve, the expected curve, and that curve ratio is something that is programmed into this, and the curve of the calculated jetting as compared to the curve of the ideal jetting. But the start point used to be the idle jetting, but I realized because of the small size of the hull, there was just no way I could wrap my head around all the mathematics to try to figure out how much fuel was actually coming up through the idle jet hole, which, you know, on my small carburetors it was only like 1 millimeter. So I abandoned that idea, and I'm using the 1/8 jetting, which at 1/8 the idle jetting is about 1/10 of the total jetting richness, that is. So as I explained on previous versions, these two graphs out here are compared as far as how they relate to each other, and then that comparison is graphed right here. Above that line is rich, and below that line is lean. And you can see my Mikuni VM18 is a maximum of 5% rich at this point right here, which is just fine because a little rich allows you, when you open the throttle fairly rapidly, it's not going to bog because it was rich to begin with. But on a street bike, you don't want that to be more than 4 or 5%, or else when you're just cruising along, you're not really gunning it or anything, it's going to be running rich and it's going to foul the plug easier. Now on a racing carb with a flat slide like the Keyhine, it's normal. Sometimes I see it all the way up to like 10% here. And you know, if you're just cracking the throttle, you're never just, you know, slowly, gradually opening the throttle, that's fine. You know, just as long as you don't get any bogs. And so another thing on this version, these values have to be entered in first for whichever sheet you're using, the VMTMX, the Keyhine, or the Dell'Orto sheet. And that's the peak air velocity, which is going to be displayed right here after you put these values in. The cylinder bore and stroke, and the transfer duration. If you don't know the transfer duration, just guess. It's not critical, because a race bike is normally like 124 on up to 130. A trail bike will be like around 120, and a street bike will be around like 115. It uses the bore and stroke to calculate the engine size right here, and this value is used in all the programs. So all these sheets right here reference these numbers right here. So the first step is to go to the velocity sheet and do this for whatever sheet you're working on, and then put those values here. Another nice surprise about this version is that it's finally showing the main jet richness as being almost the same on all these different carbs, which is like from 49 to 51 right here, which is great, because if you have, let's put like an 87.5 right here, let's go lower than that, let's do like 82.5, and it's showing like 47 right here. So you'll know that, well, maybe I screwed up, maybe I'm just going by the plug color. Then you play around with the different values here until this gets up into the range between 49 and 51. And then you try that size that gave you that number on your bike and see how it is. The right jet is going to give you the best power. It's also going to be correct as far as the engine response with the throttle opening as you gradually or quickly open the throttle. Like if you're riding and you get to wide open throttle pretty fast, even though the engine RPM is not caught up, and you notice, oh, it's kind of weak here, and then so you let off the throttle and the power picks back up. Well, when you let off the throttle, you're automatically causing the mixture to be richer. So that's an indication that the main jet is lean. And what happens when the main jet is too rich? If you don't open the throttle quick enough, it will give a low power result. So it's like your engine just acts like it just wants you to get on it all the time. And if you're riding street or trail, that's uncomfortable. So if it does that, that means you need to go lower on the main jet. So the first three sheets, the VM, TMX, and Keyhine, allows you to save the data of extra needles. This yellow and white section is all the needles that are pertinent to this program. And this right here allows you to put in custom needles or even needles from other carburetors. And if you got that data, the program can make use of that. And then down here, it allows you to save your different setups. This allows for saving 4 setups, but it only allows you to upload these numbers into the upper part of the sheet by clicking this macro or this macro. And as far as the saved setups, that's for the VM sheet and the Keyhine and the Del Orto. So like I said before, it's not now going off the idle jetting, so it's not that critical. This measurement right here of the slide opening at idle, it's just not that critical. I don't know if it even makes any difference. I'm tired from getting this thing working the way I wanted it to work, and sometimes I just leave little details like that for something to do on a boring day. So we've got a graph start factor right here, and I want to show you how that works. If you know that it's too rich at 1/8 slide opening, which is just barely above idle, you can let's say you think it's 10% rich, you can enter 1.1, which is basically saying 10% rich. But then you've got to re-enter this number right here before it shows on the graph that it is rich. You see what happened there? And on the Keyhine and the TMX, you see I own a Mikuni and a Del Orto carb, but they're both round slide carbs. I do not own a carb that has a flat slide, so it's a little bit of more of a guessing game on those two carbs, which is why I included the ability to raise the start of the graph and to raise the middle of the graph. Like for instance, if this is all the way up to 10% high, and from riding it that it's not really that rich, you would want to lower the middle of the graph. which you see it right away does. You don't need to enter any new numbers after you enter that number, whatever that is. So the idea here is that you want the graph to look like what you feel it is writing like. And so then after doing that, you can change the needle, you can change all these different settings, the main jet, etc., to look how the graph compares to the way it was before. The main use of this program is just having a graph as a point of reference, even if the graph is not perfect. I've worked on this program long and hard, and I tell you, it still has a ways to go before it's perfect. Probably one of the most critical things there is on this program is this number right here, which is the millimeters that the slide is open when the taper. Let me show you that picture. When the top taper of the needle is just at the needle jet. Imagine that the needle jet is 2 lines right here on both sides of it. When the top of that taper is right at the top of the skinny part of the needle jet, what is the slide opening? That's what that number is. And if you get these details right here, which is the distance between the bottom of the slide to the clip base, this right here is the clip base, so it'd be this distance right here, this distance right here, the total distance. You get those numbers right, and the distance of the needle itself. Actually, it doesn't. This sheet is not asking for the total distance of the needle. I think some of the others do. Then it will tell you what it estimates the slide opening will be with that clip position. And then you can go by that, or you can measure it. I know this jetting is really, really good for the street. It's not too rich, so that when I'm just putting around, I'm not going to foul a plug, and it doesn't bog when I crack the throttle open, as long as I don't crack it open too fast. And that is lean mid-throttle, and that's perfect for street. It's showing a little bit lean right here. I don't know if that number's right. I'm always messing with my carbs. I need to remeasure that. So if, most of you are familiar with the program anyway, and that's just what I wanted to say, then you've got to start off on the velocity sheet, get those numbers in right there. And then it's nice that this will give you a reference point. If it's lower than 49, you might want to raise the main jet. If it's higher than 51, you might want to lower the main jet size. And yeah, that's it. Just like I've told you before, all these light blue colored cells are the data entry cells. And I haven't fully messed with it, but if you mess with all the idle settings except for right there, and it doesn't change the graph, that wouldn't surprise me. Like I said, because it keys off the 1/8 slide open position, jetting right now. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for being patient with me on this program. It's been a long road to hoe, and there just isn't any instructions on how to make these programs for a carburetor. I've had to wing it completely from the start. Done a few, measurements and tests, and just from my experience riding with the 2 carbs that I have. So yeah, if you need any help, just let me know. Okay, thanks for watching.